Hey, welcome everyone to the From the Shadows podcast. I am your host, Shane Grove. And if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. But if you want to follow us and see what else is going on with the From the Shadows podcast, you can find us on Facebook. You can find our forum group on Facebook called After the Shadows. You can find me on Instagram at Shane Grove Author. You can find us at From the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, or you can go to our website, FromTheShadowsPodcast.com. It'll take you to all those places. I don't think it takes you to me, but who really is going to look at me anyway? It'll take you to our store. It'll take you to our Patreon page, all kinds of stuff. And you can hit the contact button if you have a story you want to share, or you just want to send us an email. It'll come to me. I'll read it. If you do have an experience that you want to share on the air, that's the best place to do it. Although you can get a hold of us everywhere. So we want to hear from you. Those are the kind of guests we like to have. But speaking of guests we like to have, I've been super excited. I forget, it's been 4 or 5 days now since I first talked to this distinguished lady who is joining us. She has a vast. Not only is she an experiencer, I think she's going to tell the story, but she's also an author, an investigator. So she runs the gamut of experience, and she's going to share that with us. And I'm super excited because we get to talk paranormal stuff from my time, from back in the dark ages, so to speak, a little bit. So joining us is Dev Rooney, and it does not sound like it's spelled. Trust me, everybody. We'll put that in the description. I would give almost $1 million to anybody that could spell her name. And I think I would not be in any danger of giving that money away. But Deb is not only an author, like I said, but she is the Assistant State Director for the Northern California branch of MUFON. So Deb, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Shane. Good to be here.
It is definitely my pleasure. So Deb, I want you to share with our listeners, like, what it was like growing up, what got you interested in UFOs. I mean, that's definitely where we're going to start, into extraterrestrials, UFOs. What kind of set the table for you then to become an investigator and an author on the subject?
Yeah, so I was a kid growing up in the late 60s, and I was really into those 50s movies that, like Earth versus the Flying Saucers, those kind of things. Saturday afternoons, loved to go in and sit there and watch them. And my mom was always shooing me out because, she was trying to clean the house, begging her to, oh, no, I want to watch this stuff. But I was always into that kind of thing. But in the, like in 1969, I was around 11, and I used to hang out in this tree in the front yard, being a kid, spying on the other kids of the neighborhood. And I was just practically living up in that tree, hanging out, especially during the summer. And, I was there up there every day. And then one day I found myself waking up, kind of like coming to consciousness, probably about 6 feet away from the base of the tree. And I was waking up and thinking, what am I doing on the ground? And looking up at the tree knowing that I was moments before, just hanging up in the tree. But, here's the thing. I was very tall and skinny, and, I was wedged in one of the main branches of the tree, so I wasn't going to fall. But here's the thing. If I did fall, I wouldn't have fell 6 feet away, because I wasn't up in the branches of the tree. I was pretty much in the trunk. And this tree, when whoever planted this tree, planted it on a man-made mound, right? So it sat up. And then what bordered that mound was this dark gray coral rock, and it was kind of sharp to the touch. So if I would have fell onto that rock area, I would have gotten hurt. But I was clearly way far away. And I, wasn't stupid. I knew something happened. Like, how did I get there? That doesn't make any sense. And I was just kind of got up, brushing myself off and trying to figure out what the heck happened. I knew something happened, but I just didn't know what. But shortly after that, I just became really obsessed with the UFO phenomenon. And, it was a lot more than what I was just like, sitting there watching those 50 movies, it was just something that was in my mind, like I was always wondering what was out there. And I started to climb the roof and my mom was not happy about that. And I would sit up there and, lay up there and just look at the sky. And it just, and even at night when I'm supposed to be in bed, I just get up out of bed and look out the window and I would start crying. And I felt like I was being left behind, and I didn't understand that mentality of thinking. Like I had a great childhood, I had great parents, a great family life. So it wasn't like I wanted something else. So time went on and I forgot about that incident. And so in the 70s, I was a teenager and I was so into UFOs. I was trying to get my hands on everything I could to learn more. I mean, there was the library, there was no internet. Nothing like that. And so, there was books in the library and I was reading all what I could on that. And, there was maybe a few UFO publications as far as magazines. But then there was the National Enquirer that would have UFO stories, and like the Travis Walton case was featured there. But yeah, I was just always talking about it. And of course, everybody's making fun of me because they thought, I was crazy or whatever for believing in UFOs. I just knew in the back of my mind that they were real. But, I guess it was in 1977 when I reached out to Betty Hill from the Interrupted Journey, her and Betty, her husband, Barney.
Yeah.
Yeah, from New Hampshire. I reached out to her because I had bought her book and I wrote her a letter, and then we ended up talking on the phone. And she really encouraged me to go forward with, UFO investigation because she knew.
You just said two of the most paranormal things to any of our listeners under 30 years old. Wrote a letter and talked on the phone. Those are two things. Two things they're going to be like, whoa, they didn't tell us they were going to talk about that. That's like ancient history. Okay. So.
Yeah, a landline.
That's amazing. So that, you read the book, you were intrigued by the book, and you just wrote a letter. And back in those days, you could write somebody a letter and they would respond.
Yeah, absolutely. She did. In fact, I still have the letter. One of the letters that she had sent back and wrote to me, and she even sent me a Christmas card. I still have that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I ended up meeting her when she came out here to California. There was a UFO convention, and I think it was in the 80s, but I finally met her in person. I said hello and everything. But so, she was kind of paramount into talking with me. And, I was just a kid trying to figure it all out and didn't know really what to do about it. I knew that this is a subject that I wanted to get involved with a little deeper, as far as I really wanted to talk to others about what they saw. And so I started to just try to get the word out to everybody and anybody. In 79, I was working for Peterbilt Motors, and I was talking to different people about UFOs and stuff. And one day some guy came up to me and said, hey, somebody on the day shift wants to talk to you. And if you can come here tomorrow early on your shift, because I worked a swing shift. And I did, and talked to this man. And he just said, look, he said, I hear you're interested in this thing. And I said, yeah. I said, did you happen to see something? He said, yeah, he was in the Navy He was on a ship with another guy they were like on a lookout, their shift at night. And they were on deck, just smoking a cigarette and, just kind of hanging out. And he said that I believe the moon was out, and in the water, they saw like bubbling, and, there was something underneath the water, and there was like a light, and they thought, oh shit, that was a sub. That there was something under the water, and of course, they were thinking along the lines of it's a submarine. So they were watching it, and then all of a sudden this disc-shaped object just came flying out of the water and was just hovering above the water, and they were just shocked. And he said he had never seen anything like that, and there it was. There was no denying what that was. And he said they just looked at each other, him and the other guy, and they said, should we tell somebody? And they weren't sure if they should or not. And the thing just ended up shooting off into the sky and gone just so quickly that they almost questioned, did we really see something? So they ended up not saying anything. They decided not to tell anybody because they didn't, number one, they didn't have any proof. And then they went to the radar guy to ask, did you see anything? Was there anything out there? And he said no, so anyway, he wanted to just let me know. And then he gave me a gift. He gave me a copy of Flying Saucer Review, which was published in the UK overseas, and he had gotten a copy, and he had it for a long time, and then he ended up giving it to me, so as a gift.
But what's amazing about that then is that is what is happening now. Is now they're reporting, the Tic Tac things going in the water and coming out of the water and lighting up the water and taking off. And it makes you even wonder, did the radar guy, did they actually see something? And at that point, he was of the same thought process as those guys, is I'm not saying anything, what am I going to say? Nobody's going to believe me.
Well, I guess if they had radar returns, wouldn't it somehow be recorded? But see, a lot of times these things, they can avoid radar detection. So, you know what I'm saying? So, like I don't know what the scenario was if the radar guy, just said, no, there wasn't anything on radar, or if there was, or like I said, that the UFO itself just didn't show up. So, yeah, so that, it was things like that. And, people were coming to me and saying, hey, I saw something. And, when they were coming to me, they were wanting to talk to someone that wasn't going to laugh at them, and at least listen to what they had to say, because they just couldn't believe what they saw. They wanted to tell someone. So these early investigations that I was doing on my own was something that I was just trying to get the word out that I wanted to hear other people's experiences. And so although in the 80s I did attend a MUFON meeting in San Jose, and here in California, I had met Ruben Uriarte, and he was part of Northern California MUFON. What's so funny was that was in probably the early 80s, mid 80s maybe. And I went to the meeting, and I was kind of shy in those days, like I didn't really know anyone and didn't know what to say. I just wanted to listen to what the meeting people, that ran it, what they were saying. And so funny that, decades later, I would be Ruben's assistant state director. It's so funny. It's just so crazy. I just told him, I said, I know you probably don't remember me, but I remember you because I had attended that meeting back in the 80s, and now here we are, and I started to be a part of Northern California MUFON as of 2010. So decades later, after meeting that man, I became his assistant.
Now I want to ask you, so in the 70s and 80s and stuff, when people are coming to you and telling you about their experiences, what are you doing? Are you cataloging? Are you writing down what they said, what they
I did.
described? Okay.
Yes, I did. And because I was young and stupid, because I didn't have, um, there's no computers or anything. You're writing down on a piece of paper. I'm putting it in an envelope. And after moving a million times in my lifetime, I have misplaced and lost a lot of stuff. And yeah, some of that early stuff is gone. The memory is not gone. I still remember, these people coming to me and them telling me. In fact, one person that I ended up, her parents knew my parents, and she was a little bit older than I. She came to me years later, after she had gotten married, and she was driving down the road, and she had a sighting of a cylindrical object that had a row of colored lights just hovering in the sky while she was at a stoplight. And she knew I was interested in all that, and she got a hold of me. I went over to her house, and I, took down the report. And to this day, I know this woman. She's on Facebook, and I had asked her, "Do you remember that?" She goes, "I barely remember that. It was just so long ago." But I told her I remember every detail because it was amazing what you saw. She goes, "Yeah." She said, "My memory is, like as far as, she didn't." At first, she said maybe it was an airplane. I go, "But airplanes don't hover."
Oh gosh. Isn't that, I mean, that's kind of funny how people will talk themselves out of some stuff from time to time,
Yeah, because that was like, I think that was around 78. Yeah, because she was like, "Well, maybe it was an airplane." And I said, "Do you remember seeing wings?" She goes, "Well, not really." She goes, "It was long like an airplane, but it had colored lights." And she said, "But it gave me the impression it was just sitting there in the sky," which made her think it was strange, right? And so she wanted to tell me about it. And what did I think? And I said, "Well, an airplane doesn't hover." Not in 1978, and we wouldn't have had anything like that. I mean, if we did, boy, that would have been deep, black projects, right? But no, I just told her airplanes don't hover like that. And if you're not seeing any wings, then what the heck was it, right?
well, what I want to ask then, so you're taking all these accounts. Was there anything that started to send off like ding, 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 like, okay, this area is getting a lot? Because I'm assuming you're getting people that from a close radius of where you live at the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So was there any commonality between the reports? Was there anything that seemed like a location that seemed like it was more active or not? I mean, what really stuck out to you back then?
Just that people were seeing things. Now you got to understand something. I was also seeing things. In fact, it was 1978, I believe. At the time, I was a manager for a gas station. And so as manager, I would have to get the money out of the safe and every day go to the bank. And the banks closed back in those days. The banks closed at 3 o'clock. There was no such thing as ATM, so there was no need for anyone to be in the parking lot, right? Well, this particular day, I was riding a motorcycle. That was my form of transportation at that moment. And it had rained that morning, and so I was glad to see that the sky cleared up. So I had to hurry up and drive to Wells Fargo to put the money in the bank for the gas station. And I was running late, and so I was really getting on it and making sure I got there. But they locked the door, and I'm banging on the door, and I'm showing them my bag, because you get this bank bag. It's like green, right, with a zipper on the top. And I'm holding it up going, hey, you guys, because they know me because I'm there every day. And so they let me in. I said, I'm so sorry I'm late. So I get in there, I do the banking, I come back out. Now I'm officially off work, right? So I had my helmet in my hand and I go over to my motorcycle and I'm looking up at the sky going, oh, awesome. It's nice weather. I'm off work. It's around 3:10 or so in the afternoon. And I was going to put my helmet on and I was looking straight up, probably 80 degrees. Wasn't straight up because that would have been 90 degrees. So I was about looking up about 75 degrees, 80 degrees, and I see these two shiny objects and they're coming towards me. But from my viewpoint, they looked oblong, right? So I'm thinking, what the heck is that? So I took my helmet back off and I'm watching them and they're coming towards me, what they're flying east to west. And I'm facing east and they're coming towards me and they fly right over my head. And I realize they're not oblong shaped, they're circular and they're shiny like a silver color. And the sun is, because it was about the springtime. So the sun was getting ready to set probably by 5. So it was lower in the sky, but it was shining off their shiny surfaces. And I looked and there was no wings, no domes, no windows, no insignia, no nothing. It was just these silver circular objects. And there was 2 of them. One was trailing a little bit behind the other. And they flew right over me. There was no sound. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is crazy. There's nobody in the parking lot. I'm looking around to say to somebody, look, you see this? There's nobody because, like I said, the bank closed at 3. So this thing they just continued west until I couldn't see them anymore. I ended up reporting that to the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, APRO, that was located in Arizona, I believe, at the time. And since there was no internet, you had to write for a report form. And they sent me one and I filled out the report and sent it back snail mail to them because that's all there was in those days, right?
As a postal worker, I take offense to that. There's no such thing as snail mail. But go ahead. It's just me being.
Well, yeah, that's what everybody refers to it now. But
it's only on my mail route that it's.
So yeah, so I drew a picture of what I saw and gave them all the details and I sent it in. And so I know that report somewhere, if wherever those files, I think, what's his name? Oh, the guy that wrote that book called Triangular UFOs. Yeah, he just got the APRO files. And I wrote him because he knows me. I said to him, at some point, I'd like you to look for that, see if my case is in there in one of those files. So it for years and years, I've been trying to find out whatever happened to those files because the man and wife team that created that organization had died a long time ago. And those files were, everybody was trying to get a hold of those files. So, and now they finally, this guy, I can't remember his name, gosh. But he now has them. So that'll be interesting. I would love to see if my report is in there. So,
yeah, and it is interesting because, like you said, you lost all the reports or can't find them that you took. These reports were missing for a long time. How many other reports that were taken in similar fashion during that time period never made it to the next step now where we, like you said, now everything's on the internet. You think, okay, if I go look it up on the internet, that has to be all the reports. When really there's probably hundreds, if not thousands, of reports that never made it to that
well,
step.
if there was individual UFO investigators like myself in the early days, if they were, and I hate to say it, I was not, I should have been better with my files as far as keeping them in a place where they were never lost. I just was, life went on. I got a career in robotics, and I just was working a lot. I was living my life, and then on the side I was doing this UFO stuff that was very much a part of my life. And because I never went a day without thinking about UFOs my entire life, really, since the 60s, when that incident happened. And so yeah, I mean, like, I just breathed, UFOs. It was just everything. I was always reading about it or trying to find out more information, that kind of thing. And fast forward, I was having more and more sightings of my own, and ended up, here's the thing. Psychic phenomenon, it kind of goes hand in hand. They're just, I really believe everything is connected. UFOs, cryptids, paranormal, just everything, psychic phenomenon. I think everything is connected in some way, and I was becoming very, very psychic. And let's see, so the 80s, and then so in 1990, so in the 80s, what happened was, I don't know if you knew this or know of it now, but there was a woman who created UFO magazine. She lived in LA. Okay. And so I subscribed to UFO magazine back in the 80s, right? And
Okay.
reading all that. And so in one of the magazines in 1990, there was a hypnotherapist that was featured, and her name was Helen Billings. And I read about her, and she was right here in the Bay Area, and I was living in the Bay Area, right? And I said, because what happened was, I started to remember what happened to me. I remembered what happened when I was 11, right? That something happened, and I wanted to go to her, but I didn't want to see. The whole thing is, especially in those days, you had to be careful, because if you went to just any hypnotherapist or doctor or whatever, they could have just, put you in the nut house. So when I read about Helen Billings in the UFO magazine, I thought, well, here's a woman who believes in UFOs, right? So I want to go to her. So I called her up and I made an appointment, and I told her something happened to me and I want to explore that. So she said, all right. So I went to go see her, but I was nervous. I was very, very nervous, because I wasn't sure what would be disclosed, like what would I find out? And it was a little scary to me. And so I went to her, and she put me under hypnosis, and we did the regression, but there was a block. Like, she couldn't get past open up my memory. And she said to me, you're being blocked in some way. And then she said to me, well, either it's your mind or something else is blocking your memory of this. And I just said, oh, well, what can we do? And she goes, I'm going to try something else. So she put me back under, and it was amazing, because I had never been regressed before, and I wasn't sure if I could be. I mean, you're always, kind of in doubt, like, well, what is this all about, And so she put me back under, and she asked a question. She said, when's the first time you saw a UFO? Well, I remember the first time I saw a UFO, but that's not what came up. In my mind's eye, I could see me standing on like a ledge overlooking the desert floor. And there was this long cylindrical thing just resting on that floor. And she's asking me questions like, well, what do you see? And I said, the canoe people. I couldn't believe I said that. I was thinking, what? And she goes, tell me about the canoe people. And I said, well, they come from the stars, and they come here, and, periodically they talk to my father, the chief. And she goes, look down at yourself. And I did. And I realized I was like this 15-year-old boy, and all I had on was like this loincloth thing. But I knew how that was made. It was just so strange. So she was, asking me these questions, and then she had asked something like, who do you know in that life that you know now in this life? And immediately I had said, my nephew, Anthony. He was my baby brother in that lifetime. And when you're under hypnosis and this information is just coming out, spilling out of your mouth, you can see it in your mind's eye, right? And you're speaking of it, but then there's another part of you that goes, what? What was that? Like it was kind of weird. And so I started crying, and that brought me right out of the regression. And when I came out of that, I was aware that, I was out of that, and I was kind of trying to compose myself. I'm sorry, I told her. I don't know why I'm crying. And she goes, no, no, no. She said, your crying is an emotion. And so, the love of your nephew then and now, and she said, is very real. It transcends time. You'll always love that person. And I do. I love this guy, right? This is my nephew, and so I was kind of flabbergasted over the fact that not only could I remembered what I said, but I could see it all in my mind, And she says, this is what makes it real, is that this emotion that you have, that this love that you have for your nephew then and now. And it totally made sense to me. But we never did get through to what had happened to me in 69. But she said, let me ask you a question. She said, are you ready to know the truth?
Oh boy.
And I just looked at her because I knew going in that I was scared to find out. So in a sense, I already knew the answer. I said, no, I don't think I'm ready. I don't know. And she said, okay. So that kind of wrapped it up. But I still felt that was a success because I saw that in another lifetime, there was still contact with extraterrestrials. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So it had been so according to this, it had been happening for way longer than you could even remember or even know of.
I think my subconscious was trying to tell my mind that, look, this isn't something brand new. This is something that's been in your life for a while. And when you say life, my belief, and I want people to understand something. I'm not trying to tell anyone what to believe, but this is my belief. And that past life, because I've done past life regressions to understand like who I am. And I've come to the conclusion that these past lives aren't past. I'm living them right now, all at the same time as being dead. So these lifetimes make up who you are. You're other people, but because your soul, is much more than just like Dev or Shane. There's so much more to you. It really gave me a lot of food for thought, that regression in 1990. And I was thankful that happened to really explore that, within myself.
Now, once something like that happens, do memories start coming back to you when you're not in a session like that? Like just, like you're driving down the road and something.
I think what happens is now you become more aware, because shortly after that, there was just so much more was starting to happen in a more of a psychic way. And I was seeing, UFOs, and there was incidences that were happening. I go into it in the book, a lot of stuff, but it's really amazing, because I think people need to understand too, is that we all are psychic. we have this knowing. And if you really pay attention to your thoughts, a lot of times if I'm home alone, I don't have the TV on, I don't listen to music. I try to have it quiet so that if I am doing something, my mind is busy doing something, but then I might take a break and then just be quiet. And what happens is you start getting like messages, like knowings, so just paying attention to your thoughts, because sometimes things are just popping in your head and they're giving you some some info. Like let me give you an example. A friend of mine and I we were driving from the Bay Area to the Valley to go see my parents, and it was quiet in the car and the music was on low, and we were both lost in our own thoughts. And I hadn't seen this friend of mine in a long time, and I thought to myself, I wonder whatever happened to her. And so I thought of her, and I was like, huh. And then I turned to my friend, and I said, hey, let's stop for lunch. And I go, what do you think? And she said, yeah, this wherever. I said, okay. So I said, well, the next place I see. So we're on I-5 over in Lathrop, and there was like a burger place or something. So I said, oh, we're just pulling here. And I pull in to a parking space and at the same time, a van pulls up into the parking space in front of me at the exact same moment till we come to a stop at the same time. And I'm looking at this vehicle, and I look at the driver and I think, oh my God, it's her, my friend. And I jump out of the car and I run around to her side of the window, and she rolls down the window and she goes, oh my God. And I go, I was just thinking about you, and here you are. And she's like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in years. And I go, yeah, I had wondered whatever happened to you. She goes, I live out here now. And she happened to live in that same town. But see, I knew something popped into my head out of the blue about her. And then look what happens. I run into her.
So I'm going to blame your friend that was riding with you for not immediately having you get back into the that and go fill out a lottery ticket. Because, yeah. I mean, if you're pulling that stuff out of your ass, but that leads to a whole nother, you think about a song and it comes on, you think about somebody and they call, you think like, what is that?
Right,
and it's like you said, it's a knowing.
Yeah, it is kind of like a psychic moment. And if you want to talk about winning money, okay, check this out. Okay, this is a true story, and the person that was with me is still my friend, and we talked about it. So this is what happened. So this was around this time, probably in like 91 or something. Anyway. So we were working at the same place in the Bay Area. And I said one Friday, I said, you know what? I have such a bad headache because my neck is out, my back is out. I need a decent bed, but I need the money. And it's going to, I'm thinking I'd like to spend about $3,000 on a nice bed. Right. And she goes, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, here's my plan. Do you want to come with me up to Tahoe? And she goes, for what? And I go, to gamble, to go win the money. She goes, well, I don't really have any money to do that. I go, no, you don't need any money. I just don't want to go alone. So I just said, I have $20. And she goes, are you kidding me? And I go, no, really, just pack an overnight bag and we'll go. And I go, now do me a favor. I said, think about me winning this money. Because I believe that when you have more than one person and you ask for something, it could, it'll come true or whatever. So I told her, just think about that. I'm going to win, blah, 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 blah. And she's like, all right. So we go up there and, gosh, it's like noon or so. I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday. So, get up there, and she goes, wow, well, what are we going to do for food? Like, I said, don't worry, I got $20. We'll have a hot dog and a drink. She goes, okay. So I buy us a hot dog and a drink, and it leaves me about $6.
gosh.
And
This
she,
sounds like the worst road trip ever. Because
right? I mean, I'm not thinking that, but I think she is, and thinking I'm a nutbag, right? So
I got $6 and I'm gonna let it ride.
money, yes. And so, and so she's looking at me like, okay. And I said, okay, here's how it works. I need to be alone when I walk through the casino to find the machine. And she just looks at me. And I think I had $7. I said, here's $1. Go play pennies or something. Go over there. I need to be alone. And she goes, all right, bye, and takes off. So I have $6 to my name here. And I looking for the dollar machine section. Now this is in the 90s, like the early 90s, I guess. And it's those kind where you put the money in and then you pull the handle, right? It's nothing like today where it's all digital and all that. So I get the dollars changed into the dollars coins, and I go around. And what I did was I softened my focus. So as I'm walking, I'm just kind of walking like I'm putting myself in a meditative state, but kind of like, I didn't call it that. I called it like a soft focus. That's what I would say back in those days. I'm going to put myself in a soft focus, which really meant, a meditative state. Okay. So I'm walking and I'm looking at the machines, and I'm, got that soft focus going, and and then I chose this machine. And I said, this is it right here. And it's on the end. And I sat down. And now I'm looking. Now I have the worst headache ever. I'm ready to just get sick. Okay. My neck is out. I'm just not feeling well. And I say, okay, this is the machine that I think this is it. So I put in $3, because you have to put in $3 to win the jackpot.
Yep.
So you put in the $3. I pulled the handle. I think I got a cherry, and then it gives you a couple more bucks. And then I was doing that a couple times, kept winning a little cherry. It was paying me $1 or $2. And then I looked over to the machine next to me, and it was the exact same type of machine. And I said, and then I doubted myself. I said, oh, maybe it was this one. So I go over there and I put in some money and pull the handle. And then I say to myself, oh yeah, no. This is it over here on the end. And now I'm down to $4. And I put in $3, pull the handle, ding, ding, ding. I won $10,000. True story.
Let me tell you something. That might be the best story I've heard in 450 episodes of the podcast, because but I will tell you, I can't make the title of this Dev's rules on gambling. You know what I'm saying? I can't. But
no, I don't have any rules, but I mean but no, I mean, yeah, that was I mean,
like, what did your friend say? What did your friend say?
Well, as I sat there and the machine's going, ding, 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 lights and everything, and people are coming up to you going, congratulations, oh my God. And you're just like, okay. And I'm looking around for the girl that's going to give me the money, right? And I thought they were going to take out the taxes right then and there, but that's not how it worked. I just gave them my social security number, my ID, and then she, took that information and then gave me $10,000 in cash. And I freaked because I was like, oh my God, someone could mug me, right? And so I was shoving it in my pockets. And here comes my friend. She's kind of sauntering down the walkway there. And I'm waving her in, like, come here, come here. She walks up and she goes, well, what happened? Did you win? Because by that time, the machine's not dinging anymore, right? I had already got the money. And I'm standing there and she's going, well, did you win? And I go, yeah. She goes, what did you win? And I go, 10,000. And she goes, 10,000 what? And I go, $10,000. She goes, oh my God. And she was like, you're kidding. I go, no, I'm not. I knew this was going to happen. Remember, this is why we came up here with $20.
Did you at least go buy her a steak dinner then on the way home?
Oh yeah. I mean, whatever. Yeah. Like I gave her money, whatever. I just said, Well, what happened was I was so sick. I just said, we need to get a room immediately because I need to sleep. I need to go to bed. We stopped and got aspirin. I gave her some money. I said, hey, go get something to eat, or you can go gamble, whatever. But I need to go to bed. I am sick. And she goes, well, I feel weird to go by myself. And I go, yeah. And then I go, well, I'm sorry. And so I fell asleep. And of course, I slept the night through. And then the next morning I was fine. And then we went out to breakfast, whatever. And then, needless to say, I bought a $2,500 bed. It was wonderful. That was
Holy,
the whole point. I needed money to buy a new bed, man. Oh, yeah. So, as far as psychic ability, and this is with experiencers, this is kind of how it is. And I've talked to many. I mean, I've done, well, for MUFON in the last 13, 14 years or whatever, I've talked, done, I don't know, way over 1,000 cases. And I've talked to so many experiencers, so many people that, we talked, we talk about, I ask about like, psychic ability, and they go, oh yeah, like I know this, yeah. And so what's nice is that I can talk with them and they feel comfortable talking with me about the fact that we have this in common, see. And anyway, it's just, there's a lot of people that do have this ability, and I think everybody does. You just have to, just like if you learn to play the piano, you just practice at it and you're going to get really good at knowing.
so do you think your psychic ability has anything to do with your past life?
And no, I think it has to do with the UFO thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about the UFO stuff.
Yeah, because fast forward, when I decided I wanted, I wanted to write a book. I knew I wanted to write a book back in the 80s. I just wasn't sure how to go about it or whatever. And of course, time went on, life goes on. And I finally, I was going to psychics to get information about things, to better understand things. And they kept telling me, all the ones that I were going to, which were different ones, were saying, you're going to be writing a book. I said, yeah, I know. I just have to figure out how to do it, and they go, oh no, just write what you know. It'll come. And then I said, okay. And then, so when I was writing the book, I was trying to figure out how I wanted the book to be. And obviously I wanted to talk about UFO investigations because I'm an investigator, but I also wanted to talk, because the book is called UFO Investigator, A Personal Look into Circumstance, Investigations, and Discovery. And that title tells it all, because I wanted to talk about me and how I believe that whatever happened to me when I was 11 played a huge portion of why I became an investigator. And then, of course, right, but probably in 2019 or 2020, I think it was, I went to a hypnotherapist and had a couple of regressions myself, and we finally broke through to find out what happened. And anyway, I was taken when I was 11, and it was kind of weird when you could see in your mind's eye what had happened, and you're looking at these creatures or whatever. But again, I'm 11 at the time it's happening, so I'm reliving what my 11-year-old mind is thinking, too. Because it's like the little small creature because I was laying on this table, and the creature that was standing by my feet was looking at me, and its face, it was a very small creature, and its face was kind of round, and the eyes were round and a little bit, they looked human. They were just bigger, not that black almond shape that grays have. No, it wasn't like that. And its nose area was very wrinkled or scrunched up. I was trying to figure out exactly what was going on in that area of its face. And I just thought, I kind of felt sorry for it. Like, oh, you poor thing. Your face is all scrunched up. But I had asked it, like, what am I doing here? And it said, well, we've been together before. And I was just kind of looking at him. like, wow, okay. And then this tall, spindly creature with a big head was standing by my head, and it was leaning down. It's to for its face to go like look at my face, but I could see this tall, thin neck, and I was just staring at the neck, like, how can this big head be on this skinny neck and it not fall over or something? It was just, I was just really looking at that. I remember, and then I just kind of, I think that's all I remembered. And I kind of came out of the regression, and it's all in the book, because in chapter 7, what I did was I transcribed, I, my regressions were tape recorded, and I did the transcriptions. And so chapter 7 are the transcriptions of what was said and what was revealed. So
I just, man, how do you reconcile? I mean, you must have been at a certain place where you felt like you could take it, whatever it was. But then how does that make you, like, could that have changed the course of some of the stuff you'd have done in the 70s and 80s and 90s if you'd have known that earlier, and just weren't always just kind of wondering?
I don't think my life would have changed at all. I knew something happened. I suspected this happened, but the idea of, being a kid, and then, you're being taken, probably against my will. I don't remember, what I felt at that time. But, you don't know what's happening, and you don't know what you're looking at when you're looking, because these things are not human. I wasn't scared, but I was freaked out over the tall one, because this reminded me of a spider, because that's all I could think of and associate it with. Because now I had seen recently, I had seen this huge, and obviously it must have been a female, praying mantis, and her body was very thick and bubulous. And my mind went right back to that time where that creature was leaning over me, and it had a similar body. And I realized it was kind of a mantis being. But at the time when I was 11, I've never seen a praying mantis before. I didn't know of them. So in my mind, I associated it with a spider, with the very spindly legs and arms. And then the big black eye. I just was thinking, oh, it's a spider, but like tall, super tall, like a tall man size. And it was creepy to me. And I spent my entire life, I still have it, but I have arachnophobia. I cannot stand spiders. If a spider's in my house, no. Oh no.
So that would certainly explain a lot. So I want to ask. So you mentioned that you believe everybody has a certain degree of psychic ability if they could just tap into it, but you also kind of said that you felt like yours was enhanced by your experience with the extraterrestrial. But does that mean that everybody needs to have an experience with an extraterrestrial? No. Or are you saying we all do and we just don't know?
I really believe that we all have that capability. I think we are so much more powerful than what we've ever believed in ourselves. I think humanity has been pushed down with, not knowing what, how special we really are, and what we're capable of. And I think that experiencers, it enhances that kind of naturally, but everybody has that ability. And if they just believe that they do, and they, try to, work on that, and just, be aware of your thoughts, because that stuff starts popping into your head, and you start knowing things, you just, things that might happen beforehand, or just a lot of different things. And I've spent my life, looking into a lot of things and experimenting. Like I went to the Monroe Institute in '97 to learn how to go out of my body. But the point was, I already knew I was doing that, and I just didn't know what that was. And so when I did go to the Monroe Institute to learn out of body travel, I was thinking, oh man, I already know that I do this. So and then at that time they had a guest, and it was Joe McMoneagle, and he was like a remote viewer, and he was like the first remote viewer for the military or something. Anyway, he came one night and he taught us different techniques how to do remote viewing, and I started playing around with that a little bit. It was, like I did very little of it, but I did try it out, and it seemed to be working. But I always kind of attributed that to like my psychic ability of knowing. So, but it wasn't anything elaborate. It was something like, exercises like somebody, you have a friend and you tell them, draw a picture of something, like of an object, put it in a sealed envelope, and then throw it on the floor. And then tell me you're ready. And then I'll look at that envelope and then try to figure it out. Like, what did you draw? And I did successfully see that she drew a key. But I always thought, well, is this psychic ability or is that remote viewing? I was trying to figure it out on my own. Like, what does this really mean? Like, because how we always label things. We're always labeling things, or we have multiple words for the same thing in our English language. Is it just another name for psychic ability or what? That's the stuff that I was thinking about. But yeah, I just think everybody has that ability. You just have to practice with it.
And just for everybody involved or listening, this is not the opening scene to Ghostbusters, but it could be very similar. So I want to quick here, because I guess we're kind of running out of time. Man, this went fast. When did you ever get any reports, especially when you became assistant state director there at MUFON, that had similar? Did you have anybody coming to you saying they had a close encounter similar to what you didn't remember, but then and did, like, as they told the story, did something ring familiar and true to you, or not? Like, how did you react to the first time somebody came to you with their own story about that?
Before I found out about myself, or after? Before,
like did anything like when you heard somebody's story? I mean, now looking back, of course, it's a different perspective, but as you look back and remember that, did you feel something that you just didn't know what you were feeling, like a familiarity, but you didn't understand why? I mean, I'm just wondering if that was anything that you encountered.
Well, because I talked to a lot of people who have had been, abducted or whatever, had experiences where they were on board. They talked about, the different aliens and stuff, and that they were on a table. Before I knew that had happened to me, I was just very interested in listening to everybody, because I knew deep in my heart that it's these experiencers that have a lot of the answers that we were looking for, because they were having these experiences. They were there, that they, were sharing with what was being said or done, or what they saw or experienced. And I always believed that they were the ones that were going to give us the answers that we were seeking, but it didn't, as far as how it reacted to me, I was just so fascinated. It wasn't until after I had my regression and I saw that little being by my feet, and how I thought, gee, he doesn't look nothing like everybody else is seeing, right? And then it was a little while later, I was looking at a report of somebody in another state. She was driving her car, one night, and a UFO just came dropping out of the sky and kind of coming in front of her car. And the UFO had like a window. And in that window, she saw this being, and she started to describe its face and how it got a scrunched up nose area. And I said, that's it. That's him. That's the one. And she actually drew a picture of him. I was like, yeah, that's him. Jesus. I was freaked out, like, oh my God, somebody else saw this thing. And because everybody else was seeing like grays and they were different.
So in this, this is just your opinion from all your years of experiencing stuff and researching, but what do you think's going on?
Oh gosh. I think there's been there's a lot of different species out there, if you want to, for lack of a better word, a lot of different ET types. And I think some of them, a few of them have been on the earth a lot longer than us. And I think some of those have been taking everybody. And I think the ones that we would call the good ones, basically, they can't really help us, or not allowed to. We can't. It's like, if you have a child, you can't do everything for that child. You got to let them develop on their own, and you can guide them, but you can't like intervene and say, oh no, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna live your life for you. You can't do that. I think it's kind of along the same lines as that. They're not going to just come in and say, okay, we're going to solve all your problems. And it's not going to happen. So I just think that as you're going to start to see more and more, and like you do with Congress and these whistleblowers, more of the truth that's going to come out. I don't think it's going to be soon, I think, full disclosure. But I just think there's so many other things in this world that have to kind of happen first before all that gets revealed. But I think we're going to end up finding out a lot of truths that we just never knew, and it's all going to come out. So it's going to be interesting.
On that note, I'm going to ask one more question, and you can answer it, not answer it, whatever. What do you think? You mentioned, you thought that all this stuff had a tie-in together. Where do you think, like Bigfoot and Dogman and all the cryptids, fall into place with is there something to them in the UFO phenomena, or is it more of the way we are allowed to see these and experience these all come from the same place within ourselves?
I think these cryptids, and just like aliens, right? I think some have lived here for a long time. Some are like somebody had reported while they were on board a UFO, they actually saw a Bigfoot type creature on board. So I think that they are in association with UFOs. And I think just like ETs, some of these ETs come in through portals. So into other timelines, or, other places, dimensions, whatever. I think that's some of these cryptids, because I know that Dogman and Bigfoot, that there has been reports where they'll see them and then they kind of just go behind a bush and boom, they're gone. So, and they don't see them actually walk away. They're just disappearing. And UFO ETs have done that same thing. They just disappear. And the craft do that too. So I don't think there's just one answer to that. You know what I mean?
That's a pretty good answer. That there's one answer. I mean, I was just curious. I mean, from somebody who's dedicated, let's face it, a lot of your life to this subject. So I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing all this, and sharing some very personal stuff, from the from stuff from your childhood. And I mean, I know some of it's in the book, but I mean, it can't be easy to sit there and think about, like you said, you're a kid and you got taken against your will, so I don't know. I just, my hat's off to you for not just wanting to strangle the next ET that you run into. I mean, let's be honest. so let everybody know where they can find your book, and then if you do live in, we have tons of listeners in Northern California. Dev is the person you want to contact if you have an experience. I think you'd be in good hands if you talk to her. So if you would tell everybody how they can find you, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Yeah. So my book, again, UFO Investigator, a personal look into circumstance, investigations, and discovery. You can find that on Amazon under my name, Dev Rooney. Also, I run a MUFON meeting at its Round Table Pizza here in Roseville every second Saturday of the month. That information you can find on either Facebook, which is the Rockland UFO Facebook page, MUFON Facebook page, or if you go to the website, northern.california.mufon.com, and you can actually reach me there. My email is there, and then I announce when the next meetings are. Again, northern.california.mufon.com.
Hey, worst comes to worst, you get to hear some good UFO stuff and get some good pizza, right? I mean,
yeah.
Well, Dev, thank you so much for coming on and sharing these experiences, and I can't wait for our listeners to dive into this one and get some feedback and see what they have to say.
Well, thank you again, Shane, for having me on. I appreciate it. I had a good time.
Hey, we aim to please at the From the Shadows podcast. All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out. God!